looking at management of trade payables or creditors, because all those are key, and proper management is needed if you to run your business smoothly. Now, of course, with inventory, most companies, organizations invest heavily, especially when we come to manufacturing companies, because those ones carry much more of the inventory. You find that almost 50 to 100% of the revenue of the business is carried in inventory. So if it is not properly managed, then business will lose, okay? And this inventory must be managed because of the associated costs. Because if you find that the inventory is high, if the inventory is high, it is costly to the organization. If it is also low, it is also high. If it is low, it is going to be also dangerous for the organization. Now, what are some of the costs that are associated with high inventory levels? If you find that you have too much inventory, what are the costs associated with holding too much stock? Okay. And by the way, when we talk of inventory, we may have different types of inventory. We may have inventory of raw materials. We may have inventory of finished goods, and then also inventory of work in progress. So if you find that any of those inventory levels is high, in other words, it is more than what the organization requires, what are some of the costs that the organization is going to incur? Number one, we have the purchase costs or ordering costs, okay? And these costs, of course, include the requisition, placing of orders, transporting, receiving, and inspection. Then you also have the costs of holding or carrying costs. And these may include insurance, of course, renting of warehouses or warehouse space or stores, handling costs, because you find that in most cases, you also spend on staff, because you require staff, clerical staff, manage the stores. Then also there is a possibility that the inventory will deteriorate or become obsolete. And especially if you find that majorly your inventory is of perishable goods, or you find that the items, maybe you are dealing in items that may easily be out of fashion, okay? Or the items that you deal in are high technology products. And of course, you know that the technology changes, okay? Then also theft of inventory. Of course, if there is too much inventory, then there is a possibility that employees will steal privilege. Find that maybe at the end of the day, some employees will pocket or will carry some of the items, maybe within their bags. That's why you find that now most organizations, you find that if employees are coming, they check you. Even when you have a car, they have to check and see what have you come with. Even when you are leaving, they will have to check you to see what have you gone with. or you find that they have installed a 24-hour CCTV or surveillance. Okay, because if there is too much, even in your homes, by the way, you always see when there is too much, in other words, the item is in plenty, of course, there will always wastage. If you do not have control, then you find that they will waste because anyway, it is there. Okay. So those are some of the costs of high inventory. But also, if the inventory is low, there are also costs that are associated with low inventory levels. Okay. And some of these costs are stock out costs, where you find that you will lose some contribution because you've run out of stock. Okay, production is at a standstill. In some cases, maybe you find that you have to make emergency orders. And of course, once you make those emergency orders, chances are more likely that you'll pay much more than what you would have paid. I don't know whether you've ever bought something in a rush. Okay, maybe you have a function and then you want to buy items which were not planned for, and you want them quickly. So meaning that you end up paying much more than what you would have paid if maybe purchase was done maybe within the right time, or it was planned. Then there is high reorder or setup costs. And then there is also a possibility that you will lose discounts, especially where they give quantity discount, especially if you are purchasing in low levels, meaning that you may not take advantage, may not enjoy the advantages of bulk buying. So those are some of the costs of low inventory levels. So what we need to know is that if the inventory is high, it is not good. If it is also low, it is also not good. So the question is, what can be done, okay, to ensure that you resolve the conflict in inventory management? So any financial manager should avoid excessive and inadequate levels of inventory. And of course, you need to maintain an optimum level of inventory that will facilitate smooth production and sales operations. And of course, that optimum level is that one which seeks to, one, ensure that there is continuous supply of raw materials. You maintain sufficient stock of raw materials, okay? And of course, how do you ensure, for example, how do you ensure continuous supply of raw materials? You need to treat your suppliers as business partners so that they are able to avail you with the raw materials that you require at any particular time. Maintain sufficient stocks. Of course, you need to monitor regularly. Okay, as later on, as we shall see, the different stock control levels. Then also minimize on the carrying costs and holding time, because if you find that the holding time maybe is quite long, then that means that you are tying up money. Okay, you are tying up money in stock. So basically, the moment you acquire the inventory, the raw materials, you should, if it is a manufacturing farm or you are manufacturing something, your farm is a manufacturing it is in the manufacturing sector. Ensure that if you acquire the raw materials, you do not spend much time, okay? In other words, holding those raw materials. So you need to ensure that they are processed quickly, and also ensure that the demand is there. You've done enough market, maybe surveillance. You have enough customers, so that once you process also the products, you don't hold them for quite long, because if you do, then that means you are tying your money. You're tying your money, and eventually it will have it is going to have some implication on your operations, because you find that you cannot meet your obligations simply because maybe money is tied up in stock, or it is tied up in raw materials. Okay. And of course, we've looked at holding too much stock, the dangers. So you also need to control the investment in inventories and also keep it at an optimum level. So any financial manager should ensure that at least there is an optimum level of inventory. 50-50, not too much, not too low. So what are some of the techniques for inventory management? Now, in order to manage inventories, okay, you need to ask yourself, how much of the inventory should you order? And then when should the order be made? Because those are two critical questions that you need to ask yourself before you do anything. How much do you need? And when should you make an order? And some of the techniques for inventory management, we have got what we call economic order quantity, EOQ, okay? And this model, or this technique of inventory management, minimizes the total ordering and carrying costs. The EOQ minimizes the total ordering and carrying costs. And when we talk of ordering costs, those are the costs that you incur when you press an order. And they could be maybe requisition costs, purchase ordering, transportation, receiving, and inspection costs. So all those are ordering costs, costs that you incur when an order is pressed. Then you have carrying costs. And the carrying costs are costs that you incur for maintaining a given level of inventory. The inventory, yes, it is already with you now, so you have to maintain it. You have to ensure that it is put in a good press, storage press. Otherwise, if you find that maybe the storage area is not good, the inventory might be destroyed, or it might, especially for perishables. Okay. Then insurance, you find that you need to incur some insurance costs, taxes, and of course, deterioration. Okay. Now, this EOQ has some assumptions, but of course, the assumptions may not be actually may not be varied in practice. Okay. Now, like the first assumption, they said demand and lead time are constant and known. Okay. The first assumption of economic order quantity is that demand and lead time are constant and known. When you look at that, of course, if you have to critique that assumption, you realize that in practice, it might be hard for you to predict the demand because it varies from one maybe season to another. Even the lead time, that the lead time is known, which also may not be the case. When I talk of lead time, that is the time, the lag between when you place an order and when the items are delivered. So we say that the lead time is constant and known, that the demand and lead time are constant and known. In practice, it may not be actually true. Then that the purchase price is constant. Also, this may not be true in practice because prices do fluctuate, okay, depending on the period. Then there is no buffer inventory held, or it is not needed. When I talk of buffer inventory, that is the inventory that you that is kept for emergencies. Okay. Now, there are some key terms that are associated with inventory management: lead time, lag between placing an order and the delivering the item, that is lead time; buffer inventory, the inventory that is kept for emergencies; reorder level, okay, the quantity of inventory on hand when the order is pressed, okay, that is the order level. Then reorder quantity, the quantity which minimizes the total holding as well as ordering costs. Now, how do you compute economic order quantity? For us to compute the EOQ, we shall use the following formula: 2DCO divided by CH. So we need to get the square root of this, where D is the annual demand, okay? And then CO is the carrying cost per order. And then CH is the cost of holding one unit for one particular year. And of course, in most cases, because I've said D is annual demand, you need to be keen on the demand that you've been given. Because in some cases, you might be given the monthly demand. You find that what is given is the monthly demand. So meaning that if you are given the monthly demand, you need to multiply by 12 to get the annual demand. If you are given the daily demand, you need to multiply by 365, because we have 365 days in a year, so that you can get your annual demand. If you are given weeks, you need to multiply by how many weeks in a year?
52.
52, so that you can get your annual demand. If you are given the quarterly demand, how many quarters are in a year?
4.
4. So you need to be keen, especially on this demand. Look at the demand that you've been given, and of course, see how you can get the annual demand. Now, there is a simple illustration here that a company requires 1,000 units of material X per month, and the cost per order is $30, regardless of the size of the order. And holding costs are $2.88 per unit per annum. So you're required to compute the economic order quantity. And we say that the economic order quantity is that quantity which minimizes the holding costs and ordering costs. And we saw the examples of those costs: the cost of holding inventory at your premises, and then the cost of ordering. Okay. So now, when you look at this, you realize that our cost of ordering here is 30. This is our cost of ordering. Then the cost of the annual demand, of course, since I was given the monthly demand, I need to multiply this by 12 so that I get my annual demand, and the holding cost is 2.88. So meaning that our EOQ in this case would be 500 units. So meaning that this quantity, okay, you'll be able to minimize your holding as well as carrying costs. So that is the EOQ. Then there is illustration 2. The monthly demand for a product is 10,000 units. The purchase price is $10 per unit, and the company's cost of finance is 15% per annum. Warehouse storage costs per unit are $2 per unit, and the supplier charges $200 per order of delivery. So they're saying that you compute the EOQ. So can you compute this? Let me give you 3 minutes. You compute for me the EOQ for this area, for this illustration 2. So 3 minutes. Anybody was finished? Are you done? So what is the EOQ? Anybody who has completed computing that? because our formula is here. Who has got the answer? Are you computing? Hello, are you online? I'm waiting, please. I'm waiting for the answer. I'm waiting for the answer. Hey, what has happened? Proskovia Kayesu, what has happened? If I may ask, what is the cost of ordering? What is the cost of ordering? Cost of ordering. What is the cost of ordering? Yes, cost of ordering. Can you give me the cost of ordering? Cost of pressing an order?
200.
The cost of pressing an order?
It's 400.
Are you sure it's 200?
400.
Huh?
It's 2 times 200.
Two? 200.
400. 2 times 200.
Why are you multiplying by, why are you getting the 2 times 200? Because I say that the supplier charges $200 per per order of delivery. So that is the cost of ordering. Then we have the cost of holding. Cost of holding. So what is the cost of holding?
2.
2. Is it only 2? Yes, we have $2. But is it the only holding cost? Is it the only holding cost?
I think it is 2 times the 10,000 units, because the 2 is for per unit, so we have to multiply by 10,000 units.
Even this one is per unit, per order. That one is okay. This is $200 per order. But is it the only holding cost? There is another cost that
The cost of finance.
yes, there is a cost of finance. Okay, so I need to add the cost of finance. So what is the cost of finance? They're saying it is 15%, 0.15 times the purchase price per unit
10.
is 10.
Mm.
So what do you get as the cost of holding?
$30.
3.5.
Hmm?
30. 3.5.
3.5.
3.5.
Right.
So that is the cost of holding. So having identified those two, then I can determine my EOQ. So my EOQ would be would be what? It's going to be 2. I need to also know the annual demand. Annual demand. So my annual demand is what? Have I been given the? Yes, I've been given the monthly.
10,000 times 12.
So we multiply this by 12. So that gives me
120,000.
120,000. So mean that if I substitute here, it's going to be 2 times annual demand, which is because it is 2 times the annual demand, which is 120,000, then multiply by the cost of ordering, which is 200. I divide this by the cost of holding. So the cost of holding is what? 3.5. So my EOQ in this case would be what? What would be the EOQ?
$3,703 units.
3703.3.
03. And of course, these are units. So this is our quantity. This is the quantity. This is the quantity which will minimize which will minimize hoarding and carrying, no, ordering what? Ordering. Because hoarding is the same as carrying. Ordering costs. Okay. So 3,703 units will minimize our hoarding and ordering costs. Okay. Now there is illustration 3. They're saying that DCO uses component V22 in its construction process. The company has a demand of 40,000 components per annum, and they cost $4.5 each. There is no lead time between placing an order and delivery, and the ordering costs amount to $100 per order. The annual cost of holding one component in inventory is estimated to be $0.65. They're saying that you calculate the EOQ and then assume that the company adopts EOQ as its quantity, and that it now takes 3 weeks for an order to be delivered. How frequently will the company place an order? And then how much inventory will it have on hand when the order is pressed? So I'm giving you also 3 minutes to try out this. Try out this illustration 3.
I must have skipped something.
Yes, you got a different version. What version did you get?
I got 7,893.
7,893. That is what you got.
Yes.
Hmm.
I got my annual demand as 45,000 times the cost per each, which is
Annual demand.
$4. Yes.
Annual demand is what?
I multiplied 45,000 by $4.5.
Why multiply? Annual demand is 45,000 components. That is the annual demand. Cost of ordering. The cost of ordering. Cost of ordering is what? $100 per order. That is the cost of ordering. Then the cost of hoarding is what? So I lost my network. So what is the cost of the cost of ordering is 100 per order. Then the cost of hoarding. What is the cost of hoarding?
0.65.
0.65 dollars. Okay. So if you now determine the EOQ, if I determine the EOQ, so that means that it is going to be 2 times 45,000 times cost of ordering, which is 100. Then divide by 0.65. So what do you get? Do you get what you are telling us, or you get something different?
I'm trying to calculate that. Okay, I get 3721, what our colleague mentioned earlier.
So where was the problem?
I had calculated 40, I had multiplied 45,000 by the $4.5.
You see, when you do that, if you multiply by 4.5, then that means that the cost of ordering must also be multiplied by the what? Because now, like here, if the cost of ordering is per unit, then you need to multiply by the number of units. If you multiply by the annual demand by the cost, so everything you will have to, even here, but it's better to use per unit. Okay. Now,
All right.
what about part 2? They're saying assuming the company adopts EOQ as its quantity and it takes 3 weeks for an order to be delivered. How frequently will the company place an order? The frequency of the company pressing an order once the EOQ above is adopted as its quantity. Okay. So what would be that frequency? What would be the frequency? How do I get that frequency?
Maybe if I may submit what I think the frequency would be, I think it would be the total components needed for the year divided by the quantity they are demanding at every order. So which gives us 12. That would mean they can only consume the 45 components in 12 months. So that would mean every month they have to order.
So meaning to get the frequency, we shall get the annual.
The annual demand.
Annual demand. We divide this
of
by
45. You divide it by the EOQ.
EOQ. Okay. So meaning that will give us the annual demand is what? 45.
45.
So we divide this by we divide it by EOQ, which is
which is
3,
3721.
721. So meaning that the company will have to press an order. How many times?
No, 12 times.
12 times.
Mm.
Okay.
So if we divide that by the 12 months that are in a year, we get 1, which is 1 month. Every month they have to.
That means you have
Press
to
an-
press an order 12 times in a year. So
Yes.
that means every month you have to do what? Be making an order.
Mm.
Then they're saying, how much inventory will it have on hand when the order is pressed? So what will be the inventory that will be available? Remember, they have said the lead time is 3 weeks for the order to be delivered. So how do we determine the inventory that will be available on hand when the order is pressed? So lead time is 3 weeks. How many weeks do we have in the year?
52.
52.
Mm.
So we multiply this by the EOQ. So what is the EOQ?
3721.
3721. So it's going to be 3. Ambrose, you are writing in my work. It's going to be 3 out of 52 times EOQ, which is
721.
3721. So the inventory would be what?
214. 214.7.
Do what? Two 114.
214.7.
0.7. 214.7 components. Ambrose, you are using let me reshare because now somebody has written in my work. Okay. Now, that is EOQ as one of the techniques for inventory management. Now we have
Maybe
also
before
got
we
a
leave
number
the
of-
topic,
Huh?
before we leave the topic,
Mm,
the question of how frequently will the company place an order
mm.
needs the number of times that the company will place an order.
This one, how frequently will the company place an order?
The number of times.
Yes.
And then that question of how much inventory will it have will it have on hand when the order is placed?
Mm.
Why are we using the weeks? Why are we using the lead time and the number of weeks in a year?
Because here they are telling us that it takes you 3 weeks for an order to be delivered. So the lead time is 3 weeks. So mean that before the new stock comes in, okay, what do you have? What is available at hand? before you get the new stock. That's why you're looking at the lead time over the total number of weeks in the year. Then multiply by the reorder quantity. Okay. Now,
Okay.
Can I also ask,
yes.
does it mean that EOQ also caters for lead time?
EOQ.
It also caters for lead times.
What do you mean by catering for lead time?
Like this, the units, the EOQ units are units which include the, for example, you said you order 12 times. So do they mean that these units include the 1 month and then the extra days for the lead time?
The EOQ does not cater for the lead time, because that one which caters for the lead time, EOQ catering for lead time, no. Because EOQ, we say that is the order which you will minimize your carrying and holding costs, but not catering for lead time. I don't know whether that one is clear.
No, it's not clear, because when we are getting the stock for our 3 weeks of lead time, we get it off our EOQ. So that means the stock, that is my understanding. I don't know if it's right. That means our EOQ stock included the stock in the lead time, the 3 weeks lead time.
I'm not getting exactly what you are trying to mean.
May I submit?
Yes.
Joanita, maybe if I'm getting the question right, if we had lead time in our prior question up, so if you could scroll to the actual question of this, of what we are handling. Yes, if we had lead time in that question, would we include it in our calculation for EOQ? You see, we are saying there's no lead time between order and delivery, and there before we say ordering costs. So if we had lead time in that question, would we include it in the calculation of the EOQ?
That's what I'm asking.
Including lead time in the calculation of EOQ?
Yes, yes. If it was there in the first question. She's asking if we had, you see, let's say that 3 weeks lead time was in this question, would we include it when we are calculating for EOQ?
No, there is
like
no way
lead
time will work. If we look at the assumptions of this model, the first one, we said that the purchase price is constant, demand and lead time are constant and known. So meaning that we would not have, it wouldn't come in here within our determination of our economic order quantity. It wouldn't come. Is that one okay?
Okay. So what happens to our cost of $4.5 per component?
The cost of 4.5 is the purchase cost. And it will not apply here in any way in determining our cost, our EOQ, unless maybe they had given us like the cost of finance. Okay? That's when we would use it to determine the ordering what, rather the holding cost. like the way we did in the previous example, but in this case, it does not, it may not be helpful in determining our economic order quantity. Or alternatively, if you decide to use, like, in other words, you decide to use here, the 45,000 components, somebody who multiplies by the purchase price. That means here, even the cost of ordering, you will multiply by the components, the cost of ordering, then the cost of holding, you also multiply by the components. What I will get, if I decide to use the 4.5, then that means I will multiply this by 4.5. Then here, when I come to cost of ordering, 100 per order, I will multiply by the number of orders. Then the cost of holding, if it is per unit, then I also multiply by the units held. But I said, as I said earlier, it is advisable you use per unit.
Okay.
Can I ask again?
Yes.
In if, for example, you're procuring and the lead time is there, does it mean that this formula will not work for you? It will not be accurate? If in reality there is lead time in your purchases, does it mean that the EOQ, this concept of EOQ may not be accurate for you?
Why say not accurate?
Basing on what I had asked earlier, basing on the assumptions that okay, yeah, here the lead time is constant, so it's already catered for in what we get. Okay, then I understand. So that means in this other scenario, in illustration, where they said the lead time, it takes 3 weeks for an order to be delivered. That means it will be 3 weeks throughout the year.
Yeah, 3 weeks throughout the year. Every time you place an order, so the waiting time will be what?
3 weeks. Okay, thank you.
Now, the inventory management systems. We have got a number of systems that have been developed to simplify the inventory management process. And one of them, we have the bin systems. Then we have the periodic review and just in time. So now these systems, like the way the bin system works, the organization will have two bins, okay? One of them is you may have 2 bins, and you may have a 1 bin system, whereby if the organization is using a 1 bin system, okay, or 2 bin system, if it is utilizing 2 bin system, inventory will be taken from A, like the way you see here. You take inventory from A. This is A, and then you have B. So meaning that once the inventory from Once A is empty, then you have to press an order, okay? So meaning that waiting time or the read time, you'll be using the inventory from B. And of course, the expected inventory for B is the expected demand in the lead time. That is the time when the order is pressed and inventory arriving. Then plus some other buffer inventory, that inventory that you keep for emergencies, okay? So once the inventory arrives, then B is filled up to standard level and the rest is pressed in A. And then inventory is drawn as required from A, and then you repeat the process continuously, okay? So once you are using one bin system, okay, you find that maybe each bin has a red line within the bin, and that red line indicates the reorder level. So meaning that once you get the inventory out of that and you reach that line, then of course you need to press an order. Then there is periodic review or constant order cycle system. And of course, with this, inventory level is reviewed at fixed intervals, maybe every 4 weeks or maybe 3 weeks, depending on the nature of the organization and of course, how inventory is consumed, okay? So the inventory in hand is then made up to a predetermined level, which takes into account the likely demand before the next review, and then the likely demand during the lead time. Then the last one is just in time. And of course, with just in time, that means that you order the exact quantities of inventory, or rather materials that you require, okay? So if you are using just in time, it means that whatever you get, you use it, and whatever you produce, it is sold. So mean that you do not have any stocks with you. You get, if it is a manufacturing firm, it means that you will get the raw materials immediately they reach at the premises, convert them into finished goods. Once the goods are processed and they are complete, you sell them. So meaning that you may not have any stock with you, okay? And of course, this may not be possible in practice, because you may find that all what you've acquired, you may not use it. You may find that you have some remaining, or even what you've produced, you may not get, you may not produce in exact quantities that the customers will require, okay? Of course, there are some advantages of this just in time. Number one, it eliminates waste at every stage of the manufacturing process, because you only use what you require. Then it also builds stronger relationship between the buyer and the supplier. Hence, it offers security to the supplier. Then the emphasis on quality control reduces scrap, reworking, and setup costs. Then disadvantages, it may not run smoothly in practice, as the theory may predict, okay? Then also the buyer depends on suppliers for maintaining the quality of delivered materials. So that is just in time, okay? Now, that is one element of working capital management. So the second one, the second element is cash. another element of working capital is cash, which is very, very, very key. Okay. Management of cash resources, because we need money, we need cash. Okay. Because without cash, that means that we shall not be able to perform our tasks. We shall not be able to run our operations smoothly. So just give me a few minutes. I saw something here, then I will be back. You can be reading through management of cash as I come. But if you find that you have excess money lying there on your bank accounts, not being invested, it is not ideal, because you are foregoing some potential return. Also, if it is inadequate, having inadequate cash balances, it is also not ideal, either because you'll find that you will have challenges in meeting your obligations. So meaning that there is need to have a trade-off between liquidity and profitability, so that you have optimal cash balances. The balances which are not high jeopardize returns, no balances which are too low threaten the liquidity position of the firm. So in most cases, a risk-averse manager normally maintains high cash balances, which boost the liquidity of the firm. But if foregoes return, if you are risk-averse, you find that you want to maintain high cash balances on your account, but of course, you are foregoing a return. That is profitability. You want to maintain liquidity, but foregoing what? Profitability. Because you find that you have too much cash balance, which is idle. It attracts no return or low return if the bank is to give you some interest. But a risk taker manager, one who doesn't fear risks, will maintain low cash balances, which implies high returns through investment in profitable ventures. But in most cases, you may find that the business will be threatened with insufficient cash to meet short-term obligations as and when they fall. Okay. Now, with this, there is need for cash balancing the two, liquidity vis-a-vis profitability. Like when you see that diagrammatic representation, the one that is there, you need to have a balance between the liquidity position of the firm vis-a-vis the profitability. And with the liquidity, you need to ensure that there is enough cash to pay bills when they fall due, okay? And profitability, you need to minimize the holding of cash, an asset which is idle. Is there, it is not generating any income. So this is not an easy task, okay? So you need to really ensure that the two, liquidity versus profitability, are balanced. Invest any excess cash that you have. Do not leave it on the accounts to lie there idle. But as you invest, bear in mind that you need to maintain sufficient cash balances so that you will pay your obligations, especially the current one. And of course, you have seen, what do I need? What do I need to clear my obligations? What do I need to invest the excess so that it doesn't really lie there idle? Okay. Now, the number of cash management policies and techniques, of course, to be able to determine the optimal cash balances, okay, where both liquidity and profitability are achieved simultaneously. A manager should have a cash management policy, which normally spells out now. One, management of cash inflows, efficient collection, very key. Because if there is no efficiency in collection of your debts, then you will have challenges. Then also management of cash outflows. How do you manage disbursements? You find that some organizations, when the money is there, you spend it at once, and then in the end, there is you find that you are getting challenges in running your operations. Then also management of surplus cash. If it is surplus, you also need to bear in mind this surplus, is it short term? Because if it is short term and then you say, let me increase salaries, then you will have issues. Okay. So when you find that these cash inflows and outflows are properly synchronized, there will be no problem in managing cash, because this would imply zero balance between inflows and outflows. That is a situation of no deficit or surplus, meaning that what you need is available, and what you get is what you spend. And this is normally referred to as the concept of zero cash balance. Okay, and it is the ideal situation, and reality cash inflows and outflows rarely match. This is true. It is very rare where you find that your inflows are matching your outflows. In most cases, you find there is a mismatch. However, there are two broad strategies that can be followed to try to achieve a zero cash balance situation. And this lies in the management of cash receipts and cash disbursements, and also management of cash cash surplus and deficit of cash balances. And this is where we're going to begin from in the next session we meet. Okay, how do you manage the cash receipts and cash disbursements? And then also, how do you manage any surplus that is available? And if there is a deficit, you have a deficit cash balance, what can you also do? Okay, so once we have finished cash, then what I would require you to do is that I want you to research on management of trade payables or management of creditors, because after cash we shall look at debtors. Then I want you to look at management of trade payables. Okay, so since there are people who are going to have a class at 10, I think I will stop here for now, and then we meet in the coming week, unless there is an issue.